Ever had some punk tell you to get outta your own pool? Yeah, that happened to me. But what this spoiled kid didn't know was that I'm the sheriff of this county. Hit that like button, 'cause this story gets wild. It was one of those blazing summer afternoons in Oakwood Estates. The kind of day when the air feels thick, the sun burns through your shirt, and the smell of chlorine floats heavy in the air. The HOA's pool was packed. Kids screaming, music blaring, people pretending they liked each other. Typical suburban paradise. And right there, sitting quietly under the shade near the deep end, was Tom Harris. A man who didn't need to say much to command respect. Clean-shaven, mid-40s, calm eyes behind a pair of aviators. Most folks knew him as the guy who bought the old farmhouse at the end of Maple Drive. What they didn't know was that he was also the county sheriff. Tom wasn't there to make a scene. He just wanted to relax, maybe take a dip. He helped fund half the community improvements around here, including that very pool. But to most of the HOA crowd, especially Karen Wilkins, he was just the quiet guy who doesn't attend meetings. Karen ran the HOA like a kingdom, and her teenage son, Brad, acted like its spoiled little prince. That afternoon, Brad strutted into the pool area like he owned it. Designer shades, loud swim trunks, his dad's car keys hanging from his finger. Behind him, his friends, a loud pack of privileged troublemakers. They turned up the speakers. They splashed people. They laughed like the world revolved around them. Tom barely glanced up. He'd seen worse in his years on the force. But when Brad's gang started pushing little kids out of the shallow end and demanding space for their private pool party, Tom's patience began to thin. Then came the breaking point. Brad swaggered toward Tom, pointing his soda can like a weapon. "Hey, old man, you can't sit there. This is a private event." Tom looked up slowly, calm as ever. "Pretty sure this is a community pool, son." Brad scoffed. "Not today, it ain't. My mom runs the HOA, so unless you're on the guest list, beat it." Tom chuckled softly, leaning back in his chair. "Guess I'll take my chances." Brad's face twisted with arrogance. "Guess I'll call my mom, then. She'll have security toss you out." Tom didn't say a word. He just watched, quietly sipping his iced tea, while Brad stomped off with his phone. 5 minutes later, the air shifted. A white Lexus screeched into the parking lot, and out stormed Karen Wilkins. Hair perfectly sprayed, sunglasses like armor, HOA clipboard clutched like a sword. The Queen had arrived. "Bradley!" she shouted, heels clacking against the pavement. "Where is he?" Brad pointed across the pool. "That man, sitting over there. He's refusing to leave our event." Karen turned and glared like she'd just spotted a criminal. Tom stayed seated, calm, collected, watching her approach with that small, knowing smile. "Excuse me," Karen barked. "This pool is closed for a private HOA gathering. You need to leave immediately." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Funny, I didn't see that notice anywhere." "It was sent in the community newsletter," she snapped. "If you read your emails, you'd know. Now, pack up your things." Brad smirked, folding his arms. "Told you, old man." Tom exhaled, still calm. "Karen, I'm pretty sure the HOA can't close off a public access pool without county authorization. You do realize that, right?" Karen froze for half a second, clearly not used to being challenged. "Excuse me? Do you know who I am?" Tom stood slowly, setting his drink down. "I do. The question is, do you know who I am?" Brad snorted. "Yeah. Some nobody who doesn't pay attention." Tom smiled faintly. "Something like that." Karen rolled her eyes. "Look, either you leave, or I'm calling the police." Tom's expression didn't change. "Please do." She blinked, confused. "I'm serious," Tom continued. "Call them. Let's clear this up the right way." Brad scoffed again, pulling out his phone. "Fine, we will." But before he could hit dial, a familiar sound echoed in the distance. The low rumble of a county cruiser pulling up beside the Lexus. Deputy Ruiz stepped out, his hand instinctively resting on his holster. "Everything okay here, Sheriff?" The pool went silent. Karen froze. Brad's face went pale. Tom finally turned to face them fully, badge glinting from the chain around his neck. "Like I said," he murmured, "I am the police." Karen's clipboard slipped from her hand. Brad's mouth hung open. The same man they just tried to kick out of his own pool was the law himself. But Tom wasn't done. He wasn't angry. He was just getting started. The crowd around the pool had gone dead quiet. Every splash, every laugh had faded into stunned silence. Tom stood calm under the sun, his badge gleaming faintly in the light. Karen blinked like she couldn't process what she was seeing. "Sheriff?" she stammered. "You're the sheriff?" Tom nodded slowly. "Been for 8 years now. You know, the same sheriff who approved your HOA bylaws. The same sheriff who signed the county permit for this pool." Brad swallowed hard. We didn't know." Tom held up a hand. "That's the problem, son. You didn't know. You just assumed." Deputy Ruiz crossed his arms. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" Karen scrambled for words. "And no, officer. Just a misunderstanding." But Tom wasn't about to let it slide that easily. Not because of pride, but because he'd seen this behavior before. The arrogance, the entitlement, the belief that rules only applied to other people. He turned to the onlookers, the neighbors who'd stayed silent under Karen's reign for years. "Folks," he said evenly, "you all know me. I keep the peace. But this kind of behavior, it ends today." Karen's face twisted in panic. "Sheriff, please. You have to understand. Brad didn't mean anything." "Brad told me to get out of my own pool," Tom interrupted. "He told me this was a private event, and that I wasn't welcome." Brad mumbled, "I didn't know." Tom's tone softened just slightly. "That's exactly why you learn respect, son. Not because someone's wearing a badge, but because it's the right thing to do." He turned to Karen. "As for you, I've been patient with your HOA for years. But your private events, your selective enforcement, your fines for nonsense, they're illegal. You've been operating beyond your authority." Karen's face turned white. "What? That's ridiculous." Tom took out his phone, showing a document. "I have the county's oversight report right here. You've been charging residents for amenity fees that were never approved. That ends today." Brad stepped back, stunned. Karen tried to snatch the paper from Tom's hand, but he calmly folded it back into his pocket. "You can either cooperate," he said quietly, "or I can start writing citations. Your choice." The silence was deafening. Even the teenagers stopped whispering. Karen's mask cracked. Her voice trembled. I didn't realize." Tom nodded once. "Then maybe this was a good wake-up call." He turned toward the deputy. "Ruiz, make sure the HOA board receives that audit report by tomorrow morning." "Will do, Sheriff." Karen slumped against the pool fence, defeated. Brad's friends scattered, embarrassed. Brad just stared at the ground, his confidence gone. Tom sighed, pulling his chair back under the umbrella. "Now, if nobody minds, I'd like to finish my drink." And just like that, life resumed. Kids jumped back into the pool. Music played softly again. But something in Oakwood Estates had changed that day. Karen stopped her power games. Brad stayed out of trouble. And every time the sheriff showed up for a swim, people nodded respectfully. Not out of fear, but out of gratitude. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come from flashing lights or handcuffs. Sometimes it comes from standing your ground, calmly, quietly, and letting the truth do the talking. As Tom leaned back, the sun dipping low over the water, he smiled faintly. "Guess the pool's finally peaceful again," he muttered. And for the first time in a long while, it was